The rain hit the concrete in hard, slanted sheets as Detective Ellen Ramirez pulled up to the yellow-taped alley just off Wabash Avenue. The call had come in barely 20 minutes ago. A body, male, mid-30s, shot point blank in the face, no witnesses. Ellen stepped out of the cruiser, her boots sloshing through a puddle. The flashing lights from the squad cars painted the soaked alley in red and blue. She ducked under the tape and nodded to Officer Kravitz, a rookie who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Who found him?" Ellen asked, pulling her coat tighter. "Janitor from the bakery next door. Said he came to dump the trash and saw the body." The corpse lay sprawled beside a dumpster. Blood pooled under his head, mixing with the dirty water. His wallet was missing, but his phone lay a few feet away, shattered. Ellen crouched beside the body and frowned. Something about it didn't feel right. "Execution style," she muttered. "Not a robbery gone wrong. Too clean." The forensics team arrived, and Ellen stepped back, scanning the alley. Then she noticed it, above the second-floor window of a run-down bar across the street, a faint, blinking red light. A security camera. Inside the precinct, Ellen sipped lukewarm coffee as she reviewed the footage. The camera angle was poor, the image grainy, but she could see enough. The victim, tall, white male, leather jacket, walked into the alley at 2:17 a.m. 2 minutes later, another man followed. No hesitation. He raised a gun, fired once. The killer wore a hoodie and gloves. No face, no tattoos, no identifiable marks. "Any hits on facial recognition?" she asked the tech. The tech shook his head. "Nothing. The victim's face was too damaged for ID, but we lifted a partial print off the phone case. It's running now." Ellen stood and stretched. "Get me everything on that print, and run local missing persons reports. I've got a feeling this guy wasn't a random." That feeling deepened when she returned to her desk and found a plain envelope on her chair. No name. No address. Inside was a single photograph. The dead man, alive, standing beside Ellen's former partner, Detective James Cutter. But Cutter had been dead for 2 years. Detective Ellen Ramirez stared at the photograph in her trembling hands. James Cutter, her old partner, the man who took a bullet on duty during a drug bust 2 years ago. They buried him with full honors. But the photo, grainy, time-stamped from only 3 weeks ago, showed him very much alive, arm around the victim who now lay cold in the morgue. She grabbed her phone and dialed the one person she never thought she'd call again. "Ramirez," a gravelly voice answered after one ring. "Captain Voss," she said. "We need to talk. It's about Cutter." A long pause. "Cutter's dead, Ramirez." "Number Y just got a photo of him. Dated 3 weeks ago. He's with the John Doe we pulled from the alley." "Where are you?" Voss demanded. "Precinct." "Don't move." The line went dead. Within 15 minutes, Captain Voss stormed into her office. He was older now, slower, but the sharpness in his eyes hadn't dulled. He shut the door behind him. "Where's the photo?" She handed it to him. He looked at it for a long moment, then shoved it into his coat pocket. "You never saw this," he said firmly. "Like hell I didn't. That man was my partner. You told me he died. You told me you saw the body yourself." "I did," Voss said, avoiding her eyes. "We all did. That's the official story." She stared at him. "And the unofficial story?" He sighed. "He was pulled into a federal task force, deep undercover, the kind you don't come back from. We were told to bury the name, keep it quiet." "So why is he turning up in murder scenes now?" Voss hesitated. "Because Cutter may not be working for us anymore." Ellen knew when she was being played. Voss hadn't told her everything, but one thing was now certain. James Cutter faked his death, and someone in law enforcement helped him do it. She left the precinct and headed to an old contact. Jackson Liu, an ex-CIA analyst turned private investigator, and someone Cutter used to trust. Jackson opened the door of his Chicago brownstone wearing slippers and a coffee-stained MIT hoodie. "Ellen Ramirez, you look like hell." "I need information," she said, walking past him. "On someone you knew, James Cutter." Jackson stiffened. "He's dead." "Not anymore." He blinked. "Shit." Ellen showed him the photo. Jackson rubbed his chin. When Cutter went off-grid, he was working under the code name Echo. Rumor in the intelligence community was that Echo was embedded with a rogue domestic group, vigilantes, ex-cops, ex-military, real nasty types. Took the law into their own hands. He joined them, or he infiltrated them, Jackson said. Depends on who you ask. But after a while, we lost track. All we heard was whispers about a group called the Pale Flag. Ellen felt a chill run through her spine. "You got any names?" "One, Maxwell Tierney, ex-FBI. Went dark in 2018. Rumor says he runs the Pale Flag now." "I want a location." Jackson nodded and typed on his encrypted terminal. After a few moments, he scribbled an address on a sticky note. "You didn't get this from me," he muttered. Ellen pocketed the note and left without a word. The address led Ellen to a warehouse on the south side, abandoned on paper, but too well-maintained to be truly deserted. She parked 2 blocks away and approached on foot, every instinct sharp. No cameras outside, no guards visible, but something was off. The air felt watched. She reached the rusted entrance and knocked 3 times. Nothing. Then, the sound of a bolt sliding open. The door creaked inward. A bald man in tactical gear eyed her warily. "You're not supposed to be here." "I'm looking for James Cutter." He didn't flinch. "Nobody by that name here." She reached into her coat slowly and pulled out the photograph. "This man is dead, except he's not. He was seen with a murdered John Doe 2 nights ago." The man studied the photo, then stepped aside. "Follow me. Don't speak unless spoken to." Inside, the warehouse was nothing like she expected. High-end monitors, encrypted radio equipment, weapons laid out on steel tables. It wasn't a gang hideout. It was a war room. A dozen men and women, all in civilian gear, but with the bearing of trained operators, glanced up as she walked through. At the back, behind a table strewn with dossiers, stood the man in charge. Maxwell Tierney. He was tall, mid-50s, hair-buzzed military short, and a stare that could freeze lava. "You're Ramirez," he said without introduction. "You're harboring a fake dead man," she shot back. Tierney smirked. "We're all fake dead men here. Comes with the job. Cut the cryptic. I want Cutter, now." Tierney tilted his head. "James isn't here. He's working a parallel mission. He had to meet someone, a man he thought he could trust." "The John Doe," she muttered. Tierney nodded grimly. "His name was Adrian Vale. He used to run covert ops in Venezuela. James said Vale had dirt on someone powerful, someone inside the bureau." "So who killed him?" "We don't know," Tierney said, "but Cutter's off the radar. Last signal came from a burner phone in Gary, Indiana 10 hours ago." Then silence. Ellen narrowed her eyes. "What kind of dirt are we talking about?" Tierney handed her a USB drive. "Start with that," he said. "Then decide if you want to help us, or stay behind and get buried with the rest of the lies." Ellen drove back to her apartment in silence, the USB drive in her pocket feeling like a ticking bomb. She locked the door, drew the curtains, and disabled her laptop's Wi-Fi before plugging the drive in. It was encrypted. Tierney had given her the password. Valkyrie 13. Inside was a single folder titled Red Market. Her heart pounded as she opened it. Photos. Dozens of them. Girls, young, terrified, lined up in storage units, blindfolded. Dates ranged from 2012 to 2020. Each image was stamped with a name, a location, and a time. She clicked on a file labeled transcript_05-2017. It was an audio file, a man's voice, calm, controlled. Ellen paused the file, stomach twisting. Who was the woman? She opened the metadata. The file was tagged with an abbreviation, TH. She cross-referenced it with a database of DOJ officials and FBI agents. Then her blood went cold. Teresa Hargrove, Deputy Director of the FBI. Ellen's fingers hovered over the keyboard. She had zipped the Red Market folder and drafted an anonymous email to a trusted investigative journalist at the Tribune. Her cursor rested on the send button. That's when the lights in her apartment went out. A half-second later, the window shattered. She hit the floor just as a bullet thudded into the wall behind her. Someone was inside. She scrambled to her feet and grabbed her backup Glock from the drawer. Heart pounding, she moved low and fast toward the hallway. She caught a shadow ducking behind her kitchen island. Whoever it was, they were trained. She fired twice. Missed. The assailant fired back once, clean and measured. It grazed her left arm. She bit down a scream, leapt for the door, and slammed it open. Another shot rang out behind her, but she was already down the stairwell. Bleeding, disoriented, and clutching the flash drive like a lifeline, Ellen flagged a cab 2 blocks away, her phone left behind intentionally. She had only one place to go now. Someone not in law enforcement, not on any radar. She showed up on Jackson Liu's doorstep at 3 a.m., pale, sweating. Jackson opened the door, saw the blood, and stepped aside without a word. Inside Jackson's safe house. "You were right," she said, after he patched her up. Jackson read the names, the transcripts, the photos. His expression hardened. "Hargrove," he whispered. "She runs internal ethics oversight. If she's part of this, then she's not the only one," Ellen interrupted. "The entire structure could be rotten." He leaned back. "You can't go to your precinct. Voss might be in on it. Your own people could be feeding them updates. You've got to disappear, Ramirez." "I can't disappear," she said. "Not until I find Cutter. Not until I end this." She paused. "Can you trace the last location of that burner cutter used in Gary?" Jackson nodded, typing fast. "I'll get you GPS coordinates, but if you go there, you're going alone." She wiped the sweat from her brow and stared out the window. "I've always been alone." The road to Gary was long, empty, and flanked by misty fields. Ellen drove without headlights the final mile, guided only by moonlight and the GPS ping Jackson had traced. The location, a derelict farmhouse on the outskirts of town, circled by rusted wire fences and an eerie silence. She parked her rental car a few hundred feet away and approached on foot, her Glock drawn. The place looked deserted, but that meant nothing. She checked the porch floorboards, dusty, undisturbed. She tested the door, unlocked. Inside, the air was thick with mold and decay. But it was what lay in the living room that stopped her cold. Photos, dozens of them, pinned across the walls, victims, faces from the Red Market drive. Some she'd seen before, some were new. All girls, all missing. In the center was a photo of her, taken last week, walking out of her precinct. Below it, a handwritten note. "They're watching you. Don't trust the badge." And beside it, Cutter's badge, stained with blood. Her phone buzzed. Only Jackson had the number. She answered. But it wasn't Jackson, a distorted voice. "Hello, Detective Ramirez." "You've seen too much." Then silence. The window exploded behind her. Another shot. She dropped, rolled, and fired blindly. Someone was inside the farmhouse with her. She crawled toward the cellar door she'd spotted earlier and dove down just as another shot clipped the wooden railing. She slammed the trapdoor shut and held her breath. Footsteps passed above, then quiet. She turned on her flashlight and gasped. She turned on her flashlight and gasped. The basement walls were covered with maps, red strings, case files, and surveillance photos. This wasn't a hideout. It was Cutter's war room. And it confirmed everything. Teresa Hargrove wasn't just protecting the red market, she was running it. Ellen moved quickly through the basement, flashlight trembling in her hand. Dozens of files were neatly cataloged, labeled with code names like Cinderloop, Blue Harvest, and one she hadn't seen before, Judas. Inside the Judas file was a single page, a detailed log, locations, payments, names, and in the center of the page, James Cutter, operative turned asset reassigned by order of TH. Below that, current status, active. She stared at it, heart hammering. Cutter hadn't just gone dark. He'd flipped. And if this document was correct, he'd become a tool of the very ring he once tried to destroy. Whether by blackmail, threat, or something darker, he was part of it now. Maybe even the enforcer. Footsteps echoed from above again. She pocketed the Judas file, then quietly slipped out the basement's rear exit. Whoever had chased her was gone now, but she knew they'd be back. She called Jackson from a payphone 10 blocks away. "They know I found the war room," she said. "Cutter's alive, but he's not who he used to be." There was silence on the other end. "Then he's dangerous," Jackson said finally. "And he knows you're the only one who can stop him." Ellen hesitated. "I'm going to finish this, Jackson, but I can't do it from the shadows." "You'll be hunted." "I already am." A message to the public. Later that night, Ellen broke into a public library and uploaded the full contents of the Judas file and the red market evidence to 5 different journalists, 2 independent legal watchdogs, and 1 international human rights agency. Then she posted an anonymous leak on a public whistleblower forum with 1 sentence. Within 12 hours, the internet exploded. Red Ridge Industrial Park, Chicago's abandoned South Docks. Ellen arrived before sunrise. The sky was gray, the wind sharp. The place hadn't changed since the sting operation she and James Cutter had worked there 6 years ago, the night they'd taken down a trafficking ring. The night Cutter nearly died. Now he wanted her to return here. She entered cautiously, weapon drawn. The vast warehouse echoed with the sound of her footsteps. Then a voice called from above. "You always were 10 steps ahead of the system, Ellen." She looked up. Cutter stood on the mezzanine wearing tactical gear, his face gaunt but alert. He held no weapon, just a phone in one hand. On the screen, a live feed, Captain Voss, Teresa Hargrove, and 2 others, bound and gagged in what looked like a storage unit. "What are you doing, James?" she shouted. "This isn't justice." He descended the stairs slowly. "I begged them to help us, to clean up the rot, but they laughed, buried it. So I joined them. I played the loyal dog, and now I burned the kennel down." "You've killed people, James. Innocents. Adrian Vale. Adrian was going to sell us out to the Russians. You don't get to decide who lives or dies." Cutter stopped 5 feet from her. "And you do?" She raised her gun. "I never did. But I can stop you before you do something worse." Cutter didn't reach for his weapon. "You already sent the files. Good. Burn the Empire down. But if you want to save those people," he held up the phone, "you'll have to shoot me. The location goes out with my heartbeat." Ellen's hand trembled. Her old partner. The man who taught her to fight smart, to fight clean. "You don't have to end like this, James," he smiled sadly. "I already did." She pulled the trigger. 1 shot. Clean. Fast. Cutter dropped to the floor. His phone fell beside him. Unlocked. GPS coordinates visible. The raid came 2 hours later. Federal teams, new ones, clean ones, descended on the storage site and recovered Voss, Hargrove, and the others. The media storm was instant. Congressional hearings followed. Dozens of resignations, a handful of suicides. Ellen Ramirez submitted her badge a week later. When asked why, she simply said, "You can't fix a house that was built on graves." She moved north, disappeared. But the files she leaked continue to ripple through the system. More names fall every month. And somewhere, in quiet corners of the world, victims are coming home. Because one detective refused to stay silent.